Hi, my name is Anthony Lawton, and in this post I just want to talk through quite quickly the synergies between 8D and FMEA. I've done two posts recently, quite detailed posts on each of these topics, so I really do want you to watch those and to read and review those blogs in detail before you really get into this one. In going through and writing and videoing on 8D and FMEA, you generally talk about the synergies and the links to other tools and techniques, which is the norm. But what I've found in working with these two in detail is that when you combine them together, there's a huge amount of synergy. So much so that it's worth a post in its own right, which is what I'm trying to do here. So please do review those two posts in detail, and then this short summary will make a lot more sense. So here is the 8D template that you'll find and you'll be able to download in that particular post. And the reason why this is so good is that it takes you out of the thinking fast system 1 approach to work, and it gets you into the thinking things through mode. And there's 8 disciplines, each one in green, that you can systematically go through, and it gets you from system 1 thinking to system 2 thinking, where you're starting to think things through. So it's really, really powerful and really, really valuable. And what I've found is that it's a great way of getting you to a point where you can see the whole overview, and it's like a descriptive approach to mapping things out and thinking things through, and it's really great. So definitely do it. But then above and beyond that, where it works so well and where it fits with FMEA, is that this is almost the descriptive overview, which you can then take that, it gives you the context of the whole picture, and then you can take that and apply the specific actions into FMEA. So if we just take an example of building the right team in the 8D project, you've got the whole context of the whole 8 disciplines that you've worked through, which gives you the context of what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're doing it. And then one of the actions from 8D is to build the right team. So you're taking this sort of descriptive approach, and then you're going to work with it in a more, it's almost more of a logical review. So it's almost, for me, like I'm using the left side of my brain and the right side of my brain and combining the two. And the FMEA is where you get quite critical, quite analytical, and quite practical. So we're taking that stakeholder mapping exercise that we've determined in 8D, and now we're getting into the real detail that we're breaking it down and we're getting quite logical with it, and it works together really fantastically well. So here we've got, we need to map out which stakeholders we want. So what the quality factors are, we've got to bring the right people together. So in our example in that 8D one, we're going to do a company-wide approach to improving innovation in the organisation. So there's just one organisation, but there's many departments. And then what we're saying is, to make sure this quality factor is in place, we don't just want anybody from each department, we want the right people from those departments. So they've got to have first-hand knowledge of what we're working on, and they've got to want to be involved, they've got to turn up. We don't want social loafers in our process. So then we move into the next point, where can the failure happen if we don't get this right? Well, we'll fail in this approach and getting the wrong people together if we don't research and put enough time into that research and enough effort into it. And also if there's a lack of the right people. So it could be that there's certain departments that we just can't find the right people that want to be involved and are qualified to be involved. So that's a real potential. So what are the causes of this failure? Well, the causes would be we don't put enough time and effort into it, and maybe we don't pitch it properly. We haven't got the right people on board because we haven't given them the right pitch to get them involved and get them to buy in. So what are the effects if we don't do this properly? The effects are we don't get the right people, we don't get the right sign-off, the crucial and critical steps aren't properly thought through. Then that results in rework, lost time, lost productivity, and lost opportunity. So the effects are really significant about not getting this right. How are we going to detect that we've got this wrong or that we're not getting it right? So existing stakeholders in our group might start raising concerns that we've not got the right people in. I find that a lot. And this is a really interesting point, that you usually only find out that you've got this wrong after the event. So you've produced something, and then afterwards you get that feedback and that criticism that it's not good enough. So obviously that's quite difficult then to determine and detect before it goes wrong, because it's only really the feedback afterwards that really means something to you. So that's, keep that in mind. So what are our current sort of controls to try and make sure that we get this right and do it as best we can right first time? So we could use AOA to map out these stakeholders, so that's probably going to help us. And we've got project meetings to sort of do those mini feedbacks on whether this is working or not on those steps to the finished product. So you might say that that's quite good controls, but let's look at how severe, probable and ease of detection we've got going on here, because these basically dictate what the risk score is. So at the moment, you can look at the definitions down here, but 4 is quite severe. So if we get this wrong, the impact is bad and it's a high score. How probable that we'll get it wrong given the controls that we've got at the moment? Well, given that we're only really going to find out whether it's worked or not after the event, that's quite a high score. There's a high risk associated with that. And the ease of detection is difficult as well, so that's quite a high score. So generally, we said it's important, but it's quite difficult to detect problems and it's quite difficult to control problems. So it's a high risk, this. So then that high risk then triggers you to say, okay, maybe those controls aren't as good as we could get them. So then you start to think through in more detail and more critically and go, okay, interview and secure the names of each organisation. So we're now not just sort of flippantly asking a department head if they've got somebody to join our team. We're now interviewing people. We're having a conversation with people and we're getting to the bottom of selling to them why this is important, but also getting commitment from them that they're the right people and they're going to engage properly. What we can also do is improve our communication, so we can do weekly screencasts to update stakeholders on weekly progress. So that's like a 5-minute update. So through this process, we're reducing anxiety gaps, and that makes everything flow a lot easier and a lot better. We could have weekly webinars and workshops to share ideas and to build and to develop and progress. So that can really help. We can set all these stakeholders up on AOA so that they can all engage 24/7 whenever suits them. So if they can't meet this session, then they've still got their opportunity to feed back. And we could set up communication rules and protocols about how the whole group is going to make decisions, how the communication is going to get shared, when the decisions get made, who's the ultimate arbiter on what decisions get made. By setting those controls up, everything's an awful lot tighter. And the controls will find problems earlier on and they'll resolve problems as well. So the chances of us reducing the risk with this approach are much greater than if we just stick with this basic approach here. So with these extra controls and protocols, the severity is always going to be the same, but actually we can really reduce the risk of these other elements. We can detect easier and we can make the probability of problems much less. So we've gone from a risk score of 64 down to 4 through this process. And you can do this process on every single step that we've identified in the 8D areas of all the things we want to do. So setting up the team is number 1. The short-term mitigation actions in D3 we can apply in here. And then the bigger scale hypothesis solutions we can also run through here as well. So we move from a good overview, getting a real shape of everything that's going on. We're really in the zone and we've thought things through with the 8D. And then we're moving from the overview into the really detailed, critical specifics of FMEA, where we're really thinking through controls and how it's going to work in practice. This together is magical, I find. So if you just do the 8D on its own, it's not as strong. And if you just do the FMEA on its own, it's not as strong. Bring the two together and it really pays dividends. So I'm hoping that this example helps you to see how the two work together, and I hope you find a lot of value in it. Thanks a lot.